So I've made a conscious effort to do more reading in the last 6 months, and it's been great to not just be staring at a phone. So I'm just going to run through my last 6 month reading list. I jumped on this 48 Laws of Power. Robert Greene's pretty cool. I was pretty stoked about it, so much so that I want to start doing a podcast about it. And I started doing that, and I did 2 episodes on each 2 chapters of the 48. And then my podcast studio got overrun by some people who are staying in there, some friends from out of town. So I ended up just falling off the track on that. But I really like that book, 48 Laws of Power. So much so that I went and got his next book, Mastery, in part of the series, cranked through this. And this is more just generic principles of mastery throughout history. And this is kind of no particular order. Endure, Cam Hanes, you see that? Was pretty good. I cranked through it. It was really interesting writing style. His whole thing's about doing the the grind, and he kind of his writing style was kind of like the grind. He kind of was repeating things. I'm like, I feel like I'm reading the same thing over, but it had an effect of beating it into your head. Like that's what it's all about, the grind. Like his fucking running out, you think you're tough, and then you hear these yahoos, and you're just like, wow, I don't need to suffer that much. That's fine though. Good, it's good. I liked it. Today I just cranked through and finished this 4-hour work week. Classic book that was 2008 or 9. I've heard about it like 1,000 times, and then finally I just saw it. I'm like, boom, there it is. I'm reading it. And it's funny because I feel like I've been living a lot of these things, the whole mini retirement thing. That's basically literally the ski bum lifestyle. And it's funny because like 2 months ago I heard Tim Ferriss was on a podcast talking to some guy, and he was talking about how he was really in the skiing mode. He wants to take 2 months to go skiing every day, and it was like this awesome thing to do. And I was like, oh my god, I've done, like, my whole life has been devoted to that. So but this book's kind of focused towards like computer working and how to get off, how to work remote. And it's interesting because it's like BlackBerry era, pre-AI era, but this technology, it's like information technology at the time. But it's good. I liked it. It was like good mental. He has a lot of mental tactics to like realize. And I'm a definite, what's the word? Problem. It's been a problem to like work for the sake of working, or I'll like come up with I'll just do the most inane thing. It's not that it's I catch myself doing it. It's not like I'm out of control, and I've gotten better and better and better. Then I read that, I'm like, oh, that's it. This one's classic. I'm like, I just got through Acts, then Romans, New Testament. I read a bunch of the Old Testament a long time ago, and then just finally decided to crank through that. It's interesting reading. It actually raises more questions than answers. That's a whole subject on its own. This book, I don't have the cover. It's Day Trading Attention, Gary Vaynerchuk. I've also heard it a bunch. I haven't even actually really started this. I've read a couple pages. No, I read like the first chapter. And there's so much information. Like I've heard him talk thousands of hours, hundreds of hours. And it's funny to read it because he basically voice dictated the thing. I can hear him talking. And the whole social media game, that's a whole other thing. Basically it's social media tactics stuff. And I need to get into it. I'm halfway through this next Robert Greene, 33 Strategies of War. And it's not about just war between armies, but like the war within yourself and the war around you. And it's not to be, well, there's constant battle, whatever it is. And then I just started on first chapter of this one, The Clear Art of Thinking, which is pretty good, about this fighter pilot. He's telling stories about how to be a badass fighter pilot, which reminds me of a story when I was coming up here a long time ago to go snow machine. I had my snow machine. I was going to go be badass skier dude. It's pretty fun, sledding up a mountain. And then I was on the boat, the Inside Ferry, with this guy, same age as me and his dad, and he was going to Alaska to be a fighter pilot. And he said he had like $10 million of training in him. And it's just levels, right? You see the levels, and you're like, oh, find a fighter pilot at 1,000 miles an hour, driving a snow machine up the side of a hill. They're different. They're similar, but different. Anyway, that's what I've been reading the last, 4 or 5 months. But it's funny. It's funny because I'm reading 4 books at once, basically. And that's how, it's just an exact replica of how I do everything, multitasking, which they say, I know that's a thing too, to like multitasking's like a thing that's not necessarily be good. It's not very good to be good at it. Because sure, if I sit and read through each book at a time, that's more effective. But I don't feel like reading about the war book all the time. I don't feel like reading the freaking Bible all the time. You know, like it's the kind of like, oh, I'll read the Bible, good. Or I'm gonna read freaking Gary Vaynerchuk talking about the most contemporaneous Facebook tactics or whatever. It's just your mood, you know. So it's like kind of how I do everything. Though my mood might be to go to work, my mood might be to go skiing, or go work out, or go running, or whatever. It's kind of follow your mood, I suppose.